Are you doing the intro or am I?
Do you want to roll for it?
Ooh, okay.
Okay. All right.
8. Doing
5.
great. Ah! Google comes through once, like it never does. Hello, rollers. Welcome back to Infodump, where I have beaten Hannah at Rollies for the introduction. Welcome to Infodump, where we scour the internet for interesting pieces of news and things, and scour the bowels, the depths of Reddit for new horror stories and advice. I am one of your hosts. I am Colin. I use they and he pronouns.
Hi, I am your other host. My name is Hannah. I use they, them pronouns. I'm very excied about this week, Colin. I think it's going to be fun.
I'm really excited. We got some good ones.
I think so.
Yeah. Do we have preamble or do we just dive right in? I don't know if we have preamble. I've been good. I've been good. Yeah. I have run some lovely intro to D&D games at my local store, which are super fun. I had 2 dads and their kids who had never played D&D before, and like one of the dads wanted to start DMing, so we had a really great 2-week thing.
That is so cool. What age?
Yeah. Dads look like they're about, I'm going to say mid-40s. Kids look like they're 2 daughters about 12.
That's very fun.
Yeah. They had a great time. One of them was a humanoid pig because I said I don't care what species you are and wanted to be a pig, and made a big deal about how when they went to buy rations, they were offered smoked like pig jerky. And bacon was unacceptable, and she refused to eat at the tavern that served bacon.
Oh my God.
Like,
the goal of some people.
Well, and the consistency to the bit for this 12-year-old was like, yeah. How are you, Hannah?
I'm good. I went to go see Superman yesterday.
How was it?
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. I don't know that listeners of the show would know this, but Superman is one of my special interests. Specifically, Lex Luthor is one of my special interests.
Sure.
And I have to say, the characterization, the story, the cinematography, just all of it, the score, beautiful, incredible, perfectly done. It's one of the first Superman properties I've like enjoyed. Where I've gone in and come out and been like, yep, nope, that's it. That's all.
Yeah.
Those are all of the characters. You did it great.
I do love the original from the 80s.
Yeah.
I have a big fondness for Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor, and like just the utter shenanigans that they got up to in that, you know?
Absolutely. I think my core Superman property is the original animated series in the 90s. And just because I think for me, the animated series, the Batman the Animated Series and Superman's presence in that, Justice League, DC the Animated Universe, and also Smallville has just made me so partial to a Lex who is damaged, yes, but first and foremost, a hater. And really yes, are they a genius and like a tech magnate and like amazing at business? Yes. But also the best Lexes don't really care about any of that. They saw a man fly past their window and they want to fight him physically in a Burger King parking lot immediately. That was their first instinct. The second any one of them like saw him fly past, they're like, I have to kill that guy.
I do.
And I love that.
This does make me want to ask before we dive into the rest of the thing. Have you read Red Sun?
I have. Yeah.
Okay. For listeners that don't know, this is an alternate, like, what if DC, what if Superman landed in the Soviet Union and became communist god, essentially, because of communist. And it is, I don't want to spoil it because it's so good, but I love Lex's characterization in that. I think it's so interesting. And I think the way they sort of do this sort of closed loop of it near the end also is like this really interesting cyclical kind of a thing that feels very applicable to comic books.
Yes. I think that one of the things that I like the best about like Lex and Clark as like 2 opposing forces is that like at the core, right? are not only like fundamental ideological differences, right? It's not just that Lex is like just an evil guy. It's that Lex is into the idea of the advancements of humanity, big picture, and Clark is into the fundamentals of humanity, small picture. And that those two ideologies do not go together well. And also that like at its core, like, you know, you always talk to people who are like, well, why doesn't he just kill him? Because that's the point, because Lex is also human and deeply so. And inside of Lex is also the Colonel that Clark loves in everybody else, and he just kind of refuses to give up on him, even though he's like, that guy's the fucking worst.
He's the
I can't stand that guy.
Well, and it does lead to really interesting arcs, like the times that they actually align in any way, shape, or form. And when they are on the
No, my favorite thing is when the Justice League is like, okay, there is one guy who could help us with this particular problem. And none of us are gonna like this, but Clark, you gotta go ask Lex, please, pretty please, will he help us? Because he won't unless you do that. And Clark's like, oh God, no, could we please just all die instead? And they're like, no.
No,
you gotta go ask that guy for help.
Yeah.
And Lex is like, I don't know. I'm not particularly moved. And they're like, they're gonna blow up the earth where you live. And Lex is like, I don't really care about that. I'll probably just leave. And they're like, and they're going to blame you when it happens. And Lex is like, damn it.
God damn it.
All right, fine.
All right, do this thing that I thought of in 5 seconds. And everyone's like, oh my God, why didn't we think about that?
Do this thing that I thought of in 5 seconds, and I get to shoot Clark in the face afterwards, and everybody has to be really cool about it. And Clark's like, "What? We're not agreeing to that, right?" And everybody's like, "Yeah. No, it's okay. Hey, that's a pretty. You'll be fine. You survive every single time. You'll be fine."
I feel like there's also, I want to say it's like in Kingdom Come or one of those things when Batman and Lex are aligned, which is also like the world should be afraid of that. Shit.
Yeah. No, I like that there is. They really could, if Lex and Bruce worked together, they could do so many things, but almost all of them would be very bad.
Well, yes, and it's one of those, like, those two people working together have the resources to end world problems.
Yeah.
But then we, I guess, don't have interesting comic books.
Then we don't have any stories left. This is the problem, right? Is like if they actually did do all of the things they could do, we wouldn't have any problems left.
I mean, it's, you know, no analogy at all to our current world situation. The fact that billionaires could, in fact, just end hunger and disease worldwide. But will they? They're going to have a few billion less dollars, so no, they won't.
So no. I think the thing that's very special about Lex is many things. I could go on forever about what's special about Lex, but like a few things that I think are applicable to our current world situation is that someone who is wounded in childhood who never addresses those wounds can be the smartest, most powerful man on earth, and he will still be trying to fill that void. Yeah. It will never go away. It will never be enough.
I mean, you would have to think as a whatever level intellect, like whatever the fucking DC ranking system
12th,
is.
baby!
Like, sure.
He's a 12th level intellect, like, baby!
Oh, therapy. Right. What a great idea. It works. Studies have shown that it works. And maybe I, as this frighteningly intellectual person, will know I'm smarter than my therapist.
Yeah.
But they will...
They don't, anyway, I guess, include basic introspection in the list of intelligences in DC.
No,
I think
it seems like a really in very short supply.
Yeah, that's why my favorite thing to do is take Clark and Lex into the back room like little Barbies and go and they're kissing and they're boyfriends.
I feel like that might actually solve a lot of their problems.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you probably didn't hear it here first, but we have the solution for DC's Lex Luthor problem.
I fixed the problem. You're welcome, you guys.
I mean, there's absolutely fanfic of it out there everywhere.
I know.
No doubt. There was such a matter-of-fact statement there that on our very vaguely family-adjacent show, we're not going to talk about why you know this.
Yes. Conspiratorial, participatorial, one might say. Anyway, Superman good.
D&D,
you should go see
Superman
it.
good. Go see. Lex Luthor also good, depending on how you view him.
But my kind of bad. The kind of bad that I enjoy.
Yeah. All right. Shall we, on that note, shall we talk about RPGs also?
Yeah, a bad that I enjoy.
Yeah. Do we roll off again, or do we keep these rolls? Okay. All right. Let's see. How are we doing here? So much better. 10.
Okay, I got a 17.
Okay, Hannah, take it away.
Okay. I am sure, again, this is not the first place that you've heard this. Several outlets are reporting on it. That WotC president John Haidt was recently interviewed by the game business. I think in partnership with the head of Giant Skull, which is a video game publisher, about a game that Giant Skull is working on, a D&D related game, not Baldur's Gate 4. But he did say in that interview, quote, Baldur's Gate is an incredible game, and of course we're going to do a successor, which is we've kind of known for a while that was probably around the corner. It's not an official announcement, but it's as official as we're likely to get for a while. I would imagine at this point they are shopping around for who's going to develop that game. It does not sound like the game that Giant Skull is developing right now will be it, but it does sound like it is on the table. There has been definitely speculation about how or when that would happen. Kind of not if Baldur's Gate 3 was so ridiculously successful that it would kind of be insane if Wizards was not thinking about doing a sequel. But they're not
trying
doing
to make as much money as they can hand over
Absolutely.
fist. So someone would get fired if they did.
That's their main goal right now, I think. So the idea that they would not do that with a sequel to what is arguably one of the most successful video games of all time, probably unconscionable. Like there was kind of no way that was not going to happen.
Yeah.
What is not happening is it is not happening in partnership with Larian. Larian Studios, the developer of Baldur's Gate 3, came out actually last March and said that they would not be going forward with plans for a Baldur's Gate sequel. They had a few reasons for that. Obviously, Larian's been working on Baldur's Gate 3 for the last 6+ years. A Baldur's Gate 3 sequel would demand at least 2 to 3 more years of development in the D&D space, which Sven, the leader of Larian, has said that ultimately they were not super into doing, even though they did have a lot of ideas and already kind of structure in place for Baldur's Gate 4. So that was the reason that they gave when interviewed by PC Gamer in March of last year. Although there has definitely been speculation about how much distaste Larian has expressed over the ongoing layoffs at Wizards, which included the elimination of the entire team of liaisons that worked with them during the development of Baldur's Gate 3.
I mean, okay, my immediate reaction is like, good job, Larian, having boundaries. Right? And Wizards, you fucking idiots.
Yeah.
I'm just having a hard time conceiving of a different studio putting the same being allowed to put the same level of care and detail into a game if presumably Wizards or Hasbro is going to be like, get this shit out in 2 years. We want it delivering for Christmas 2028 or the entire project is scrapped.
Right.
And so it's going to be a fucking disaster because there will not be enough time and then it's going to flop and they're going to wonder why. I predict you and I will be on a similar call like this in 2 years going like, looks like Baldur's Gate 4 has been delayed yet again and might be canceled by whoever the fuck. Yeah.
I am pretty strongly critical of this. As some of our listeners know, I am also a video game industry vet. Larian is a very unique studio. It is an independent studio. It is not beholden either to investors or to stockholders or to publishers in terms of what their workflow looks like, what their development cycle looks like. Pretty much as long as they have the money to do it, they take the time that they need to create the product that they want. And they have gone on record of saying even stuff that is data mineable in the game is stuff that was cut or edited out for a reason, and it was to stay in line with this very clear artistic vision that they had for Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah.
I would argue that no studio is going to be able to replicate that just on logistics alone.
Yeah. That sounds right.
The production cycle of most studios, even big ones, AAA like studios, is so tight and so money conscious that you are just not going to be able to develop a product that looks anything like Baldur's Gate 3. And there's also something to be said is that the development of Baldur's Gate 3, the miraculous product that we got, which is one of the most complex video games ever brought to the public, just in terms of how many different ways you can approach things, how authentically it embodies a D&D almost modular experience, how well fleshed out the characters and the storylines are. That is just not something that most studios have the creative capacity to do either. The creative talent at Larian, I would argue, is creative talent that is at Larian. And if you want a Larian comparable experience, Larian is who you need to hire to do that.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, I think, we'll get something that like visually might be similar, but will not have been crafted anywhere near the same. In this moment, I'm also like, a really great fuck you to Wizards would be for Larian to just go, hey, Darrington Press, can we make a Daggerheart game?
Right.
I mean, having said that, with the way the dice and that system works, I don't know if you could actually do it because you kind of, until they figure out how to have like an AI GM hold the bad dice that you get to use. Anyway, people that know more about Daggerheart system will know what I'm talking about because I know very, very little. But I do understand when you roll a bad dice, the DM gets to do something with it.
That's really interesting. Yeah, it sounds like, any more direct involvement of a DM type like entity in the game certainly would have made it more complex, right? The DM in Baldur's Gate is very invisible. You're basically playing against the computer and you're very aware of that, but also that is a pretty invisible process. And part of why that is because a huge amount of video game infrastructure just on a base level is already based on D&D. This is something that I know a lot about is that like the way that video games are presently designed, all video games is very much based on D&D is like a percentile dice type outcome to resolve certain things, including like attacks and defense and combat and like choices that you make in dialogue, stuff like that. It's a very interesting and like in-depth situation. But what I would say is, I think when I was reading this interview with John Haidt and the head of Giant Skull, it sounds like the tech demo that he was looking at from Giant Skull is something the game that he referenced was God of War, and I like God of War, but that is not
it's
something.
Not D&D.
Yeah, that's not what I think of when I think of D&D. And of course, it's possible to create a video game that's going to cultivate just like a very different audience because it's for a very different part of like the D&D community than me. But I would say if their goal is to create a D&D video game, God of War is not the game that I would source on that.
So I'm gonna contribute some things here and unusually, but it's because our friend Chris Hutton at TTRPG Insider wrote about exactly this, and I found in like the weekly newsletter thing. And I want to add in to our record a quote from John Haidt. referencing the owner of Giant Skull, Stig Asmussen.
Mm-hmm.
Quote, "We go to Stig and his team to tell an incredible story and bring D&D to a very broad audience. Ideally, the game will appeal," emphasis in the quote, "to D&D players because it will help them realize their imagination. But it's also going to hopefully appeal to people that love playing action games, that love the Jedi games, that love the God of War games."
Mm-hmm.
Chris goes on to say the game will reportedly be a single-player adventure. So to me, this sounds like they're trying to make Mass Effect D&D, except like,
well,
or
it's worth
Knights
worth
of the
saying,
Old Republic. Very
it's
similar
worth saying
idea.
those two games that you just referenced, Mass Effect and KOTOR, were both created by BioWare, who made, I believe, Baldur's Gate 2. And so. The engine that the original Mass Effect 1, and KOTOR run on is a D&D 2.5 engine. It is like very, like, there are dice being rolled in KOTOR to determine things in combat, to determine, again, like dialogue. It would not be crazy to reference those games, because it would just be it would be a very like Ouroboros, like snake eating itself.
And I think to me, it's also, they are putting you on a much more railroaded and linear story.
Yes.
Right. Some of the things that made Baldur's Gate 3 as much like playing D&D and left you so much agency are going to be gone.
Yes.
I think at its worst, it's going to be something like an Assassin's Creed, which is, I consider those to be fine. Like if you look at the more recent ones, like if you look at Odyssey, starting with Odyssey, where I'm like, okay, this hypothetical non-Baldur's Gate D&D solo adventure, you pick your class and you run around through a railroaded storyline, maybe in a kind of open world, but your ability to affect that world is very limited.
Yeah.
Especially given a timeline, and now I want to, like, what else has Giant Skull?
The thing is, development of a more open-ended experience like that, for example, the ability to, let's just take one thing where you go into a situation with an NPC, let's say Shadowheart, you go to her base of operations, and based on previous choices you've made, it informs how every single person in that area interacts with you. And then if you get into combat with those people, depending on what interactions you've had in the past with Shadowheart, it informs who you're in combat with. And depending on where you are physically within the space and who you brought with you, that informs how you approach that combat, whether it's like, okay, I'm going to individually like fight all these people, or I'm going to run to the top of the stairs and just throw grease bottles on the stairs and just set it on fire every time there's a conglomeration of like 30 people on the ground because of the grease. Both completely viable strategies, by the way. But the fact that all of that possibility exists in one example in Baldur's Gate, all of that takes an immense amount of time and work to create. And without that investment of time and manpower, you are not going to get a game that looks like that. I think if people are really into Baldur's Gate 3 and they're looking forward to this Giant Skull thing, as if that's going to be a similar experience, I would say based on what I have seen so far, it probably will not be. Probably because it can't be unless they're about to invest that kind of time and energy into making it like that.
I absolutely agree. I will, as a side note, I think we are right in how the quality of the game, because I was curious what the hell else this company made. They claim to be a AAA studio focused on crafting immersive single-player action adventures in captivating worlds. Fine. Their actual fucking website is a flash animated nightmare for if anyone has remote like sensitivity to like flashy light. Do not go to the Giant Skull fucking website. It also is completely unnavigable.
Yeah.
And has nothing about the games they've made. They have what you can navigate to is, again, a terribly animated, weird thing of their, quote, studio values that just also disappeared for some fucking reason. They apparently have open roles if you want to work for this fucking company. And then some random like system console, whatever. I'm like, how the fuck? All I want to do is look at what games you have made. Why can't I buy your products from your website? You idiots.
So
I'm sorry.
Chase Carter,
what is happening here?
Chase Carter of Rascal had a pretty scathing op-ed about this particular interview, where specifically talking about John Haidt, who was hired from Blizzard to replace Cynthia Williams as head of Wizards last year, and has been pretty quiet since he took that role. Has not appeared often for press junkets, and has not done very many interviews like this. And coming from Activision Blizzard, there's some criticism being pointed at him as somebody who is very interested in expanding like Hasbro's digital holdings, and not necessarily very vocally interested in what Wizards already makes, which is TTRPGs and trading card games. But this is just like a little piece of news that has kind of been on my mind, thinking a lot about how I think, especially in creative industries that are very corporatized, like the video game industry, how often this sort of ideology gets trotted out of like, well, anybody who's in this space could basically make the same product. And what's hard for me is knowing from experience how untrue that is.
Oh, yeah. No, I think that is the epitome of like, the corporate asshole who's like, I'm the ideas man. I don't, do the thing. So my idea is make a better Baldur's Gate.
That's a great idea. How would you do that though?
Well, I'm the idea man.
Right,
so,
right.
Okay. Wow. Jesus. Well, we'll keep looking at it. I will again point our listeners to Rascal as a wonderful source of this news. And since I looked at this exact thing, I will say what I am learning, again, very briefly, whether or not it was Giant Skull itself, or at least the leader, Stig Asmussen, has worked on the God of War, the God of War series, published by Sony Santa Monica, and Respawn's Star Wars Jedi games.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and that's how he and John know each other. So this is like a personal connection of John Haidt. It sounds like.
All right. Well,
there you go. I'm actually almost more interested in like what Larian's going to do next. It sounds like they said the next thing that they're working on, they're going to try to do two things like at the same time, and they've already been like, I don't know if we're actually going to succeed in doing that. It's a lot, but I'm very interested to see what comes next from them.
Yeah, 100%. Well, on my end, Hannah, I have a fascinating, weird piece of buried D&D lore for you. With the caveat, I have not been able to interview Gary Gygax posthumously to find out the veracity of this, but it's very plausible. It seems to be fairly well researched. And I will include links to people on EN World forums who have done a much deeper dive into several specific things than I have. But, Hannah, did you know that original D&D monsters created by Gary Gygax, including our all-time classics, the Bulette, the Rust Monster, the Owlbear, possibly the Carrion Crawler, possibly an Ancient Gold Dragon, and more, are based on late 60s, early 70s plastic dinosaur kaiju toys from Japan and China?
No!
Apparently, yes. So I was pointed to this by Esoteric Collector on Blue Sky at VC Reed Sabertooth, bluesky.social. Who also calls them where is the thing? It is they were originally labeled Chinosaurs, as their origins as bootleg kaiju from Ultraman TV series was lost.
Oh my God.
For example, the Bulette, or the land shark of the AD&D Monster Manual, was in Ultraman Episode 9 in 1966. So I'm going to blow this up a little bit on my phone, and I'm going to show it to you, and our listeners will just have to look this up. remarkably Boulette-like, would you not say?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so Colin is showing me a screen cap from the Ultraman episode in question. And it is a creature who has like kind of like the body of a rhino and a sort of like metallic shark head. That
kind of pointy, segmented, got kind of the jaws and the
that
teeth
is
that
remarkably
Boulette-like. You might also look at the Owl Bear, which was a bootleg Ultraman toy called Patchies. Also kind of looks like the Return of Ultraman from 1971. That's not a good one. Never mind. So I have found this whole thread from Esoteric Collector that goes into details and pictures tracing so many of the origins of these monsters to Ultraman TV shows,
right? And
movies.
it's not putting forward that Gary Gygax ever saw Ultraman, but instead that Gary Gygax took these miniatures that were created from the Ultraman series and made them into D&D monsters.
Yeah.
That would make a lot of sense. So I have read the original Chainmail, which was the supplement that Gary Gygax published that was essentially like medieval combat simulator.
Right.
And except for the fantasy supplement at the very back was intended to be fairly realistic. And in the beginning of that book, there's this big section about setting up your table because again, like Chainmail was based off of tabletop combat,
like large scale army fighting, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Which was like the main thing that he was into at the time. And he was kind of combining like his love of Conan and Lord of the Rings alongside that to create the fantasy supplement at the back of this book. But the very beginning of Chainmail is the whole title is Chainmail Rules for Medieval Miniatures. It was published in 1972, and the introduction jumps you pretty much immediately into like rules of engagement, advice for creating simulated terrain. The quote that I wrote down in my notes is, with no other form of wargaming, or nearly any form of game for that matter, is the player given the scope for choice and range for imagination that miniature warfare provides. And he basically gives you like carte blanche to create or recreate like these fictional or historical battles using miniatures. And in that book, he tells you which miniatures to buy. He's like, you want this pack of like Robin Hood miniatures that you can get at like these game stores for this much. Use this mini for this, use this mini for that. Because he's not anywhere close to making bespoke miniatures for any of this.
No, but there's plenty that exist of these nice injection molded plastic garbage from the 60s and 70s. Yeah.
So it makes sense to me. This is at least plausible that in the development of D&D and the original Monster Manual, that he would be doing the same thing, buying these miniatures that anybody could get from the store, advising people to buy them in order to include them in their games, and then making monster stat blocks based on the miniatures that he had, which just so happened to be knockoff miniatures from Ultraman.
I mean, or, you know, I would not put it past him to have seen the show at some point in his misspent youth, middle age, I don't fucking know, and gone like, what a great inspiration for my weird fantasy realm that needs more monsters than just 15 varieties of elf and 7 varieties of orc and like 6 different goblins. Like, and I think for me also one of the things that this goes to reinforce is there's really nothing new under the sun.
No.
Right? We've come up with it collectively as a species before, and we will again. And you take the art that you are inspired by and you use it to make your own art. Gary was like, this fucking giant land shark looking thing on Ultraman that can burrow and then it can jump and land on people. That's a monster in my game now. Yeah. And I'm gonna like, you know, and I think also I'm gonna make the value judgment here of like, that's great. Yeah. Like, what a great idea.
That's also so in the spirit of D&D, right? I don't know a single DM who's never looked at a property that they loved and been like, but what if I did that? What if I did that part? Maybe not all of it, but like, I mean, what if I just surgically removed that part of it that I love and did that?
I mean, these days, 50% of that might be its own RPG anyway.
Right.
If it's popular enough. Like,
right.
You know, this is also interesting to me that many people try to shoehorn anime and sci-fi and like all these things into a D&D game when, like, for example, I myself was like, how would I do an Avatar The Last Airbender D&D game? How would I make a waterbender? And I did. It happened. It was a thing. It was fine. But there's an entire Avatar game.
There is. I just played it. It's really exists.
Fun. It seems like it is really fun, you know? Yeah. Same with One Piece. I think you and I probably both scroll past so many like r/D&D advice or whatever that's like, how do I do a One Piece game in my D&D setting? And so many times the answer is like, dude, just go buy the fucking One Piece game.
The one that exists. It's so interesting to reflect back on a time when that really didn't exist at all.
Yeah.
And where Gygax was pulling from a space of like, when he's recommending that you pick these miniatures to play his game, he's specifically recommending it because he's like, well, I'm telling you to make a grid that's this big and these miniatures are that size.
Yeah.
Like that's how like far and few between the options were in terms of like creating this space for yourself. It like simultaneously was the Wild West. You can do whatever you want. And a space where if you wanted it, you did have to make it yourself. And how lucky we are to live in a time when that is not true.
100%. Well, and I think, you know, that was the Wild West run by robber barons, right? You have to do it yourself and you have to hope the big guys don't come and squash you.
Yes.
Or try to buy you out, you know? And I think in the intervening 50 years, not only has it become easier and easier and easier to make your own game, just the tools that we have available, you know, we've talked about this in context of like, well, fuck, now literally anyone can make a podcast.
Yeah.
How do we cut through the noise? You know, and same with the games. Like the games that we have promoted and the games that we have talked about on the show are ones that to me have stood out above the others. So it is easier and easier and easier. So the plethora of options available as well, the player pool is so much larger.
Yeah.
Or at least we now are willing to own and acknowledge that the player pool is so much larger. Like
that is true.
I don't know. Gaggle of 80s housewives might have been in their basement playing D&D and just quietly not telling their husbands or like anyone anything. But like now we're just like, yes, the game space is huge and inclusive for the most part and covers so many different interests and so many different people. And when Gary was looking at Ultraman and trying to make his monster manual about it, he was like, I'm making this exclusively for people like me.
Yeah. And what a fascinating choice, given that nerd spaces have always featured women. That women have been a huge force behind the sustaining of a lot of like nerd centric franchises like Star Trek and Star Wars and all kinds of other things.
Yeah.
I don't know what an interesting way to limit yourself. When at the very beginning of your own book, you're like, the possibilities are limitless.
Unless you're a woman, in which case,
unless you're a woman,
I don't want you to play. Also, your character can't have above a 16 strength. Also, we're going to roll on the harlot table to see what kind of harlot you are.
Oh my God. I do think that one of the most magical things about things like D&D is that we as a community have agreed that actually the imagination within the space actually far outpaces what its original creators ever could have envisioned for it. Yeah. And sometimes that does mean that you're going to run into people who are like, why wouldn't you just play Rapscallion or like any other number of games instead of trying to mold D&D into what you want it to be? But other times it does mean that you are just breathing life into the game that otherwise could not have been imagined for it at its inception. And I think that's great.
It is. So that is my random piece of D&D history for this.
I love that.
And yes, all links in the show notes.
I have no idea if that is true, but it is very plausible based on what I know. It
seems like it should be, right?
Yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome
to your mid-roll. It is I, your host, Colin, here to thank you once again for listening. It is so nice and so important, and it feels so good that you are here with us. And also to remind you that if you never want to hear me say that again, if you just are excited about the show, if you love what we're doing, you can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/therollreport, where also, for as little as a single dollar a month, you can submit questions for our interview guests. Only our friends and supporters on Patreon can submit questions, and only they will get to hear the answers. We've got some really incredible guests coming up as usual, and if you want to hear their answers to your questions, head on over to Patreon. Also, you can follow us on social media. We are at The Roll Report Cast on Instagram and TikTok, and now on Blue Sky. Ooh. Follow us there for announcements about upcoming guests once they have been booked, and then you will find out if you have interesting and amazing and unusual questions for all of them. But thank you so much for listening. That's really all. We are so grateful you're here with us and hope you are enjoying this episode. Back to the show.
Anyway.
Well.
Yeah. Well,
we've done a little news and a little chat in. Do you want to do horror stories?
Why, yes, I do. I will say that I have vague, not exactly hopeful. I have advice. I have and once again selected from r/DM Academy for this specific one.
Well, would you like to go first?
Sure. Yeah. I can go first, as I can indeed. So, like I said, this comes to us today from r/DM Academy and is entitled "Pulling the Plug on a 16-Month Campaign." There is like a chunk of it is kind of just a rant, and I might paraphrase that. But our current campaign has been running for around 16 months now, and I'm calling it quits after 2 of my players forgot about the session. One showed up about 15 minutes late, which is fine. And the other never showed up and didn't even realize until after I canceled the event and told them. Since the beginning, it's been mired with scheduling/discipline issues. People waking up late, people forgetting, people outright lying for no good reason about why they're missing a session, showing up late but not notifying until I ask them where they are, etc. I tried to be empathetic and patient with my players who are all good friends of mine. Many times I thought that scheduling should not be this problematic for 5 adults without children. You poor, sweet summer child. Whenever I asked them squarely if they wanted to keep playing, if they were enjoying the campaign, etc., they would assure me that they did, and I believed them. They would form up their act for maybe a month or two, but the problems always come back. I've given them many off-ramps to completely non-judgmentally end the campaign. I just don't believe them anymore. Little bit of a rant and the interest and the, I think, not illegitimate complaint of like, they're calendar events, guys. You can see them. Put a reminder in the day before, whatever. And concludes, part of me thinks it's because we play online that it just feels less important. Like, because I'm not literally hosting them at my house and literally drawing maps in front of them, that therefore sessions subconsciously just fall to a lower priority in their mind. If I knew how utterly cancerous it would be, I would never have asked these guys to play. This experience has been so draining that I seriously don't think I'll ever take someone at their word about a long-term campaign. For my sanity, I think I'll need to do like personal reviews of their Google calendars and examine every commitment they're personally engaged in, at least for serious character-driven campaigns. And this DM's advice to people, if you're a new DM or starting with a new group or whatever, give your players 1 or maybe 2 chances at this sort of fuckery. If it continues, cut them out of the campaign. It's just not worth it.
Oh, man. Oh, man.
So I think there's a couple things here, right? And one is once again, scheduling is in fact everyone's worst enemy and nightmare.
Absolutely. There's a reason why it's a meme, right? Like, everybody knows that one of the hardest things to do when you're running a D&D campaign is to schedule it so that everyone can consistently show up.
I mean, I will return to my favorite analogy from the performance world, from like the other aspect of my life. I learned from someone that I've been working for over a decade that my sanity is better if I just say, these are when my, in this case, rehearsal or game is. It is second and fourth Thursday of the month at these times. If you can be there, fantastic. If you can't, nothing personal. I love you. We're not going to work together.
Mm-hmm.
And this has been her approach for horror choreography for years. Like, these are when my rehearsals are. You know, you can obviously miss a couple over the course of these 4 or 5, 6 months we're working on the project, but like, if you can't be at the majority of these, fuck off. Nothing personal. And so I also, the advice that this person gives, I think I take issue with.
I take issue actually with a lot of the tone of this particular post, but I sense a lot of frustration here.
I understand
that I want to honor. Like, I do understand that this is very frustrating.
After 16 months of putting in the time and effort to presumably make a campaign that on some level your players like, to have them just kind of like slowly, vaguely saunter away, like, sucks. Yeah. And I absolutely acknowledge that. I think this person kind of just let it go on a little longer than it needed to. And the other part, the part that I think is valid from a certain sense is in this last paragraph of like, because they play virtually, because this person does not have a physical map and table and minis and whatever else, like that, it is possible that their players want that experience, but don't know how to ask for it or don't know how to say, that's the game I want.
Yeah.
And I think I also want to pose the question to you, because as far as I know, you have experienced both sides of this. Like, do you feel like gathering in person, whether or not we have minis and maps, but gathering in person versus gathering in line, does that affect like your commitment to a game? And or maybe also, do you think generally this is something that people think about when in their games?
For me, does it affect my commitment to a game? Not at all. I think, though, that is also particular to me. Like, I am somebody who, when I commit to these sorts of things, I commit 150%. I actually think I am more into it than most people. But it does not affect my commitment whether I'm online or not. And I actually have played more online than I have other places. My games that I run, I have for everybody who's listening, I have a series of 3 games that run every single week. We rotate them. It is a sort of a rotating DM, rotating game kind of situation. So my friend Reese runs one, my friend Annalise runs another, and I run a third, and we rotate them every single Sunday. Every Sunday I have D&D, and it is one of these 3 games. It's always at the exact same time. It's always on the exact same day. And we have been running all 3 of these games simultaneously for about 4 years now. And do we miss sessions? Absolutely we do. Sunday is a pretty like high contention day. There's lots of stuff that goes on the weekends. We are all working adults. None of us have children, but we all still have commitments. We all still have things that are going on. And I am also the keeper of the calendar for our particular group of friends. So when it comes to like scheduling things, I'm the person who's driving those conversations. I'm the person who's figuring out when we are and aren't available. And certainly I have also experienced, I think most people do, disappointment over not getting to play when we hoped that we would. Sometimes like, even if you do all of that work, sometimes you get to the day and your friend says, I have a migraine, I can't get out of bed. You get to the day and somebody says, hey, I actually had to go into work. You get to the day and somebody says, hey, I am surprised I'm out of town. That sometimes that just happens. It's not ideal, but it happens. It can be very frustrating when that happens over and over. And I do think there are people who feel a different kind of way about playing online versus playing in person, that one is like kind of like less real, less of a commitment than the other. But I would also say, from my experience, both as a player and as a DM, really what you need is a group of people who are on the same page about when you're playing, how important it is to actually be there, and what the processes are around when you're not actually going to play. Because what I don't hear in this story, I hear a lot of frustration, and I understand where that's coming from. But I hear a lot of judgment from DM. I hear a lot of like inference that probably isn't necessary around like, well, they probably like don't even really mean it, and they probably won't even be there. And like, now I just don't trust people if they say they really are interested. I'm like, I don't think your friends have actually done anything to disprove the fact that they were interested. I think they are interested.
To the players' credit, they have more or less continued to show up.
Right.
You know, it is not clear if like the same 1 or 2 people out of the 5 are always the problem, in which case, you know, kick them the fuck out.
Right. Or set up a situation with them. Like this is the thing where he's like, I've offered them off ramps, blah, 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 blah. You have to be really explicit about stuff like that. If you are in a space as a DM where you're like, hey guys, I am seeing that we are rescheduling a lot. That is bothering me. I like something for me. I hate rescheduling day of.
Sure.
I am somebody who like very much allocates energy for what we're doing for the day. Yeah. And if somebody suddenly changes plans on me, even if I'm able to adjust and be like, okay, I guess I'll just hang out at home, I still allocated that energy for that. I don't have it for other stuff now. That was what I was planning to do. And I have like a lot of internal stuff where I'm like, oh, this relief like threw me off and now I'm really dysregulated. And so I had to say to our group pretty early on, if we're going to cancel, I need to know as early as possible. I need to know.
Don't tell me 20 minutes before I would be hopping on a call with you guys, because that's, Yeah.
Don't tell me an hour before. Tell me the night before. If there's even a chance, just so I know and I can prepare for the idea that it's like, okay, maybe I'm going to get up in the morning and you didn't feel good last night. So maybe I'm going to get up in the morning and you're not going to want to play today. Tell me that so that I can prepare myself so that I don't crash out in a way that is embarrassing.
100%. I think as we're talking, the thing that I want to give this DM, like I think they wrote from a place of frustration. Like they might have just gotten fucking canceled on. We don't know. But they're, so you have mentioned with your game, and we've experienced this with our game, like illness and injury, jobs, family emergencies, things that you communicate and you probably didn't expect them and plan them, right? Mm-hmm. And this DM, at least the specific instances they reference, are people forgetting that this was a thing. Like just not being able to fucking keep track of the day or rolling in late without saying anything.
Gosh, how hurtful that is. That's right. So hurtful.
It's you feel, I too would feel very undervalued as a DM, and like that my time was not being respected if it wasn't, illness, injury, acts of God, things that are like, oh my God, of course, real life comes first. Please take care of yourself or your family or your dog, whatever. Versus, hey man, where the fuck are you? We were supposed to start an hour ago. Oh shit, I'm so sorry, bro. I was like, I forgot. I don't know.
Of course it happens, right? Of course it happens. Sure. And like you try to be forgiving, especially if it's only happened one time. But that's really disrespectful and hurtful. Yeah. Like that does not reflect an amount of respect for the DM's time or for anybody else who's like already committed in there. Right.
Like just separating it from D&D for a minute. If I made plans with someone and I'm like fucking hanging out an hour after we were supposed to meet and they go, oh shit, sorry, man, I forgot. I'd be like, cool, I am not making plans with this person again because they don't value my time.
Yeah. I would understand that reaction. Yeah. What I would say is when you're running something like this with a group, first of all, you need to like pay attention to like if it's one person rather than if it's everybody. I understand that in that situation, it can feel like it's everybody if it's happened with like one or two different people. But I would also say you should have stuff in place you should have systems in place for when this happens. Like this I think is one of the most difficult things around scheduling is that a lot of people understand that they're supposed to schedule something regularly, but they don't understand that they're supposed to build systems around when we're scheduling things and how we're keeping track of the things that we've scheduled, and what are we doing if you're not here?
Yeah.
How long do we wait for you? How many times do like unannounced absences do we forgive? How many times can this happen before I come to you and say, you're out? I love you. You're out.
And see, you and I like systems.
Yeah.
I don't always like to make them, but I like to have them. I'm like, if you give me a list and this is the list of like whether or not we're playing D&D, fuck yeah, boss. Yeah. You got it, you know?
Yeah.
And I think you were very right. Like this DM offered their players off ramps, but did they ever specifically communicate the I feel disrespected and like my time isn't valued beyond, you know, what they say in the opening of like, oh, well, this happened. And whenever I have asked them squarely if they want to keep playing, etc., they shape up for a month or two and then they're back to shenanigans. So yeah, I think if I have the parting, my parting thing here is as so often, like, you know, communicate better.
Yeah.
Like, communicate directly, openly, and honestly, and with some vulnerability if you are a DM or a player around your scheduling, if you're having feelings. Don't.
Yeah. Nobody wants to feel like a nag with their friends. Nobody wants to feel like, especially a DM, nobody wants to feel like they're dragging their friends into having an experience with them. That's not a fun experience to have. And DMs generally already usually have a lot of imposter syndrome. So like really any indicator usually that it's like your friends aren't into it or they're not vibing with you, that can cause you to experience like a lot of rejection and a lot of hurt. And also it can really kill your love of whatever it is that you're into, regardless of what it is. If I had to drag my friends to a music festival with me, I also would feel worse about the music. The same way if I had to drag them to D&D with me, I'd feel worse about the D&D. If you have to force people to enjoy something with you, it kills the enjoyment for everybody. And
absolutely.
So I think my advice generally is, first of all, hey, I understand you're angry. I think you've said some things that are pretty unreasonable, actually, here. And I think even towards your friends, who I would be willing to bet are actually legitimately into the game. You aren't holding hard boundaries around this. And so like in most situations, if you don't hold hard boundaries around something that bothers you, what happens is people violate your boundaries over and over without you saying anything. And then eventually you explode and you're like, you guys are all jerks and I'm never doing this again. And, blah, blah, blah. And people are like, whoa.
And then the whole friend group is done. And you're like, well, cool. I'm never playing D&D again.
Yeah.
And we're all lightly traumatized.
Yeah. I mean, I think it is a very common experience for D&D players to have to be like, yeah, man, we had a really fun time, but scheduling was hard, so it petered out and we didn't get to finish it. But I think that happens less, and stuff like this happens less if you're willing to have really candid and honest conversations with people when they do things that bother you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man.
Woot. Well.
That last line was
the
crazy.
Hard conversations.
Have the hard conversations.
Yeah,
that last line where he's like, if I'm gonna search your Google Calendar to see it. Oh my God, dude, calm down.
Yeah, this is why I really think this was written like right after a session was canceled again or something. Like I think this person was like at peak frustration, end of their rope sort of thing.
Yeah, have the hard conversations, because otherwise you're going to do something that I think we have all done every now and again, and you're going to get so angry that you start saying stuff that you're like, okay, so that's deranged. That's Looney Tunes. What you just said, that was crazy. We've swung all the way back in the other direction. Oh my goodness.
Oh my God. So, anyway.
All right. Well,
what do you got for me?
So this is from D&D Horror Stories. The title is My Players Are Impossible.
I am immediately skeptical about this, but okay.
Yeah. So this is from a dungeon master.
Okay.
So strap in.
Okay.
For the record, I'm not the best DM. I am able to move the story along and make it enjoyable as I can, but I struggle with remembering rules and parts of the story at times. Anyway, recently, I had a group of 3 players that wanted me to run Curse of Strahd for them. We all live pretty far away from each other, so we were playing over Discord and Roll20. I had everyone make their characters themselves, and I got a little bit of information on everyone's character. Then, during a session 0, we helped get them into Roll20 and talked about them a bit. This part is probably my fault, but all of my players picked races that I have 0 time DMing with. Races picked out of other books, pretty much. My players picked a Ladrin, an Aasimar, and a Bugbear. I had 0 knowledge about any of these races, which is mostly my fault for poor communication, but it didn't help as I found myself relying on the players constantly giving me rules that their characters benefited from, but not me having a lot of the books, so no way to confirm. That's just the start, though. Once we finally got into playing the game... Oh, did you have something you wanted to say,
I have an immediate, that is ridiculous. 1, that's just not really a problem. 2, you, DM, could, without paying D&D Beyond any money, immediately find out the stat blocks and the species benefits for these things. Okay.
Yeah.
Also, start leading with, I'm not the best DM. Interesting way to start your whole thing. Well, and also... Here's the thing. I'm gonna push back on that because I don't think you need to know the fucking rules to be a good DM. How well you have memorized the player's handbook does not correlate to your ability to tell a good story.
Your performance as a DM. So here's the deal, Colin. This was my experience reading through this horror story. Is there's so many different things that you're gonna go, hold on. And I want you to just go ahead individually as we're going through. Just put a pin in those. And we're going to unravel we're just going to pull each of those pins out of every single grenade at the very end.
Take a little note here somewhere.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead and just write a little note every time you hear something that you're like, because there were multiple times in this story where I went, no, and it was not about the player's behavior. So with that in mind, we'll continue. Once we finally got into playing the game, it went pretty well, and we got to the village of Barovia and decided to end session 1. Also, my players wanted to start at level 3, which was fine, but it will tie in later. We took a pretty big gap between sessions because there was a lot of family stuff that one of my players had to do. In that time, we saw each other in person and talked a little bit about the campaign. They said that they wanted to add 2 more players and restart the campaign for them. I was fine with that, as we didn't make it very far, and I thought having more people would be fun, so I agreed. So the idea is that they're going to go back to the beginning of the campaign and just kind of start over with the old players just kind of going back to the very beginning. Okay. They've only played one session, so not crazy. Sure. Okay. But adding these 2 new players. During this time, that player was also telling me a bit of their character's backstory that seemed really good and well written, but I caught a glimpse of their phone and saw that they had been generating it all with ChatGPT. It wasn't the biggest deal, but it just kind of ticked me off. I confronted them about it, and they just sort of laughed it off. After maybe a few hours of preparation and getting Roll20 set back up for the beginning of the game, we started our second/first session. Instead of having them all be level 3, I made them level 2 because the 2 new players... And I didn't want everything to be super easy, which I could tell made some of them a little upset, but they got over it. The 2 new players insisted that they wanted their characters to already be in Barovia, and they were living there for years. I reluctantly agreed, but had to first get the rest of the players into Barovia. During that time, the 2 other players were complaining because of how little they got to do, and I reminded them that it was their choice, and if they wanted to, they could switch back, but they refused. I eventually got them all together during the direwolf encounter. In about halfway through it, my Bugbear player just left and said he didn't want to play in the campaign anymore. That fully set me off. I kept it cool and had the rest of the players finish the encounter and then ended the session. Me and one of the other players texted a bit about how annoying he was being and him going back on his commitment, something these players have really struggled with in the past while playing. The one I'm talking to you says they have a plan to get them back into the game, so I just leave it up to them. This morning, I wake up and see a text message from one of the players asking if all their characters can be level 20 because they've never had a level 20 character before and wanted to see what it's like. I was pissed. I would have been happy to run a one-shot or something with level 20 characters so they can experience it, but 4 or 6 20-level characters is going through Curse of Strahd would have been a nightmare, even if I buffed the hell out of every encounter. There are so many abilities and spells that they would have to absolutely destroy the campaign. That's about where I am right now, and I genuinely don't know how to respond to the text. I really just want to have a few sessions where we can play through the story normally without me having to do any major character changes or story changes. Thank you for reading all this. I really need to get this all out there. If anyone has any opinions or advice about how to get this campaign back under control, I would really appreciate it.
Yeah, get different players. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I put a pins in a couple of things. More as honestly, I think more as things that I would not necessarily want to do without some very conscious communication and conscious like narrative building on my part as the DM. Having said that, I kind of feel like this DM is in a similar place of like having some kind of shitty players.
Yes.
Or just poorly behaving players. Okay, so pins I put. One, Chat GPT generated backstory. So here's the thing. You and I are creative people, are storytellers. Yep. We both know a vast, vast body of fiction, fantasy, sci-fi. We know all the many tropes that we could pull on to create an interesting character, probably. Yeah. And it would not be that difficult for us to generate let's call it a one-page backstory.
Yeah.
I respect that you and I are not like most people in that regard. In probably many other regards too. But in this specific case, you and I think, would not have a lot of trouble creating a character. I respect that many people would have a lot more trouble crafting the one-page backstory, like making it a intelligible story versus just kind of going like, I don't think it is too much to ask of your players, even if they're not writers and storytellers, to go like, okay, give me bullet points. They're this old.
Give me a character concept.
They're this old. Like, this is kind of the motivating factor for them right now as we're starting the campaign. They've got this family member, these couple NPCs important from their past that I can bring in later. Like, and then I personally would not necessarily mind if my player went to ChatGPT with that bullet pointed list and said, hey, here's my bullet pointed list of my character. Can you make it a one-page narrative document? Hopefully they will also then edit it because it will be fucking hot garbage in its first iteration. I don't have a lot of problem with that. I have a problem with what this seemed to be. This player just said, ChatGPT, make me a D&D character.
Yeah.
For Curse of Strahd, it might have specified. And that I think I have a problem with, and I think this DM could have pushed back had they wanted to. So let's start there. How do you feel about backstories and use of AI?
How do I feel about backstories and use of AI? I think that if you are playing a creative cooperative improv game and you are relying on ChatGPT to tell you how to do that, you are failing to do it. I think that the only way that you build out your creativity, which I think everybody has, is practice. And I think for me as a DM, absolutely not. I will help you human to human.
Fair.
I will help you develop a backstory if you would like. But if you want ChatGPT to play this game for you, I don't want it in there. So
as we know from last time, this apparently fucking happens.
Yeah. I don't want you using ChatGPT. It's so interesting. I do understand where you're coming from on that, though. I understand your position. I think I might feel differently if I played more often with people who don't have like a comparable like level of like confidence when it comes to like creativity and creative exploits.
I don't disagree with you, to be clear. Like I also think that it is totally fine to just outlaw all use of generative AI at your table if you want to. I do think me personally helping a player with their backstory and crafting it into more of a narrative than bullet points is something that would depend a lot on context. I'll do that for my friends. I don't know if I'm, the games that I'm running at the stores in Mill Valley and Berkeley, or like the games that if I was to like put one on Start Playing and have random ass people, I don't know that I'd want to do that extra step if I don't already know them and have some investment in our relationship. But that's me right now when I'm feeling like very fucking busy and like I don't have that time.
See, for me, I don't know how you incorporate character backstories if you don't do that. But I think that different people have different ways of like implementing that. For me, a huge amount of building the campaign before we've begun is sitting down with my players and being like, who is your character? Who do they know? What is important to them in the world? What is their goal? What is their arc? Like, what are we doing with them? Then I will build a world that will accommodate that. And I know that lots of people do it lots of different ways though.
Well, that is something that I didn't know that I necessarily should do when I started DMing. You know, like many people, like my major DM journey began in COVID. And I just spontaneously started 3 different games of Waterdeep Dragon Heist and was like, I don't know, you guys need to make a first level character and then we do stuff.
Yep.
And eventually, 3 years later, the backstory for the Waterdeep 7, there were only 4 of them, but it's not the point.
It's okay.
It was an ongoing great joke. But like, eventually, basically at the end of Dragon Heist, I was like, what are we doing? Because we like these characters. I like this group. I'm going to use the backstories and I'm going to try to feature each of them in a separate little arc over the next 18 months before we kind of wrapped the campaign and began the one that you and I are in together.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can do nothing about your players' backstories and characters if you want.
Especially if you're running a module, right? Yeah. Especially if you're running a module, which really does not have...
But you're missing some opportunities.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. My favorite thing is to like reflavor modules in response to the players that I have.
Yeah.
But what I would say is it's really interesting that you bring up like how you started DMing, because I know that listening to this story, we hear a lot of player behavior and we're like, whoa, hey. But overwhelmingly, my takeaway from this story was, oh, this person does not know how to DM, because so many of these player behavioral problems, I'm like, where is your setup? What are your rules? You had a session 0 and you didn't tell them. First of all, you had people create characters and you didn't do that with them. And you didn't tell them what races they were allowed to pick. And you didn't tell them that's crazy to me. And it is a problem that compounds throughout the rest of the story where you're like, oh, what are your rules about generative AI? What are your rules about, you told them at the table that you were de-leveling them?
This story is an example of poor communication from a DM.
Yeah.
Right? Because I will say, like, the next thing that I flagged was, like, letting new people start in a different location than the existing party. Now, I do, okay, to be fair, if you've only played 1 session, whatever. That is, if they'd played 10 and then suddenly wanted to restart back to the beginning to accommodate these new people, that would be a much more egregious bad DM decision. In this case, I think the error was not being like, cool, you're all level 2 and you're all starting in the same place.
Yeah.
You're all travelers through the mist. You've turned up on this strange road to Barovia and you don't know what's going on, but these people are next to you, and use their fucking backstories. Be like, all right, you two have a connection. You worked a job in this other plane that
Yeah.
But you're right. Like this is a story of compounding errors by the DM in not communicating effectively, and I think in not setting good boundaries.
Yeah.
Both for themselves as a DM and for their players in like creation and behavior.
Yeah. Looking at this like from their perspective, where the DM is like, oh my God, my players are crazy. Like they're doing this, they're doing this, they're doing this. For me, I'm always routing back to, well, what did you tell them about that? Because overwhelmingly, the sensation that I get from this story is nothing.
Yeah. They said, run Curse of Strahd for us. And you said, okay.
Yeah.
And then you stop there.
Right. And it's like, you had a session 0 and you didn't set any expectations about like player behavior. You didn't say, this is what I am okay with in terms of like how you're going to set up your character. Yeah. This is how we're going to go through this. This is what I'm okay with in terms of like the use of generative AI. That like you didn't make any rules.
Yeah.
And when it came up organically, you didn't make rules then either. Like you describe yourself getting pissed and being like, "Hey man, what the fuck?" But did you say in that moment, "Hey, I'm not okay with that. You can't do that."
And again, the slight contrast, I can respect how difficult confrontation is for many people.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, on all ends of the gender spectrum, on all ends of like where you're socialized and cultural spectrums, like confrontation in the moment can be really difficult. But if you're a DM, you got to learn how to navigate that because it's going to happen.
Yes. Well, and this is the part of DMing that you're not going to find in the book, right?
Yeah.
This is the part of DMing. Like, actually, the new 2024 DM's guide is very good about this. It goes through, it's like, here's how you resolve conflict at the table. Here's how you set up scheduling. Here's how you do this. Here's how you do that. Here's how you run a game. Here's how you generate this. I think the new DM's guide is actually excellent about this. But
sure, but you got to read it.
You got to read it, and you got to absorb it, and you also, this is not what the DM's guide was like in 2014. So unless you're working from that standpoint, which I bet you're not, what you're probably just going in with is the knowledge that you got from maybe the DM's guide, maybe the PHB, maybe the module about the logistics of running the thing you're running. But it probably didn't tell you a lot about what you need to do as a DM.
Yeah.
On top of that, which is behavioral management. I don't think it's a coincidence that a lot of teachers end up DMing because it's like, oh yeah, I do this all the time.
I know how to do this. This is fine. Yeah.
Yeah, classroom management. Got it.
And I also want to talk about this, like this final thing, the like, can we all just be level 20 rampaging through Strahd?
No!
So yes, whoever wrote this, should you ever listen to this podcast, like your immediate answer is, no, I'm not doing that. You want to do that? You DM it.
Yes. Yeah. Because when it comes down to the very end and they're like, I got this text and I don't know how to respond. I'm like, you're going to say what you should have said to all of these other things, which is no.
Fuck no. If you want to be like, verbose about it.
Yeah. But you could even, if you want to be really nice, if that's your problem, you can say, oh, that sure would be fun another time. Maybe we can run it in a one shot later. But no, we're not going to do that in this campaign. Thank you for asking.
The thing is, like, what a weird question to ask too. Like I couldn't tell contextually if this came from one of the brand new never played before people or someone who has played before.
I think based on context.
Yeah.
When the other player who, the other thing, the DM starts complaining about a player to another player. No, you do not do that. That is so not okay. Like, you need to,
even if you're all friends.
Yeah, lean out. You do not lean on another member of the group to talk about how a member of your D&D group is annoying. That is not appropriate behavior. You need to lean out and get support for that from someone who is outside the group. It is not okay to do that in group. It creates a lot of resentment and contempt and not good things around the table. Yeah. Same way that if you were a teacher, you would never go to another child in your classroom and be like, oh my God, isn't Jimmy so fucking annoying?
Oh my God, Jimmy's just such an asshole. What, teacher?
Jimmy,
teacher says you're an asshole. Like, what else is going to happen right away?
What is going to happen right away? And even if it doesn't happen out loud, it's going to create a dynamic of like you guys against this player. And as part of that, the person that they were in communication was like, oh, I have a way to get him back in. Then they received this text. I assume.
Gotcha. So
this was the strategy to get him back in. And you don't want him back in. Okay. No, you don't want him back
honestly,
in.
I don't know. I would not want either of these people at my table necessarily. It unless like, I don't know, again, without a clear communication. Like I'm just thinking about for a moment, I had a new player in my kids game who this is the one I've shared stories about this kid with you. Really great kid, Ukrainian family, thick Eastern European accent. So like kind of everything is a little bit more hilarious. He very much leans into this. But like he kept asking me about like pickpocketing things and like stealing things and like kind of trying to take stuff from other players. And after asking the other players, like, hey, all right, table, we all okay with the fact that our rogue kind of wants to just steal shit from the party? And they're like, why? And he's like, well, I think it'd be fun, and then I'm going to give it back to you. And I'm like, okay, as long as you give it back, as long as that's part of it. And the other players are okay. But he kept failing. He just like, this kid could not roll above like a 7 for like a month straight. And I kept just being like, no, dude, you didn't do it. And at a certain point, I pulled him aside and I was just like, hey, I just want to make sure, or like, and he'd have really insane ideas like that would break both physics, D&D physics, and the reality of the game.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, I just wanted to be like, hey, like, I want to make sure you know, I am really a fan of your insane ideas. I want you to keep doing this, and I want to make sure that you're not getting discouraged by bad rolls or the times that I have to say, no, I'm sorry, I really cannot let you do that thing that you want to do for this reason.
Yeah.
And he was like, and as far as I'm aware, I think I have him again this fall when I start up again. Like he's fully bought in. But I felt like I had to have that conversation in case he was getting discouraged. It does not directly correlate to our matter at hand, except in the sense of like, if you notice a player is either failing a lot or like asking insane things you got to say no to, like fucking talk to them.
Yeah, what are they looking for? By asking if they can be level 20, what are they looking for? Are they just looking for kind of the novelty of like running a level 20 character? Like, who knows? You didn't ask. You just got upset.
Fantasy? Yeah.
Right?
Do they want the power fantasy? Do they want to, like playing a video game on easy mode where you just fucking rampage through the entire thing? And you're like, honestly, D&D is already kind of like that.
Yeah.
Like, if you actually think about it, like, you as an adventurer
Curse
are
of Strahd
the
is actually
richest,
one of
powerful, most badass motherfucker in the realm. Curse of Strahd is not designed that way.
Curse of Strahd is actually the only module I can think of that is not designed that way. So maybe you don't want to play Curse of Strahd.
Yeah. Having run it for my kids last year, like Tomb of Horrors, Tomb of Annihilation, whichever the fucking one was that I ran a modified version for my kids, that was clearly Gary Gygax going, all right, players, fuck you.
Yeah. No, Tomb of Annihilation is kind of infamously, extraordinarily punishing.
Extraordinarily DM versus players module.
Yes.
Like, there's almost no way to run it not that.
Yes.
Anyway.
And Curse of Strahd, I know, can also be very punishing and very, very hard. But
as the DM, you can do things about this.
Right. Of course you can.
If they want the power gamer fantasy, like, one, maybe this DM does not know the rules well enough to help them create a min-maxed, overpowered, like, badass motherfucker. But that's what the internet is for. Like, if they want that fantasy, give them that fantasy. Like, help them make a badass character, and, maybe give them like one more level than they're supposed to be, and like let them feel like they are really the hero of saving Barovia. But that's not what Curse of Strahd is.
No, that is not what Curse of Strahd is. So it might be a narrative mismatch. It might be a lot of things. But before you can establish any of that, you have to establish what the terms of engagement are. And you have not done a very good job of doing that.
No.
Your players are clearly in a space where it's like, this is casual, this is fun. I'm not expending a ton of energy into this. And you are not. So you need to get on the same page. Either you need to have a sit down with them and be like, we're bringing you up to my level. You are taking this seriously. There are rules. Or I'm bringing it down to your level. And this is fun and casual. And who cares?
Yeah.
But either way, you still need rules. Even for fun, you need rules. Because the only way that everybody gets to have fun is if everybody agrees, these are the rules by which we are having fun.
I mean, you can totally play Calvin Ball D&D style, right? But the thing to remember about Calvin Ball is every time Calvin makes a rule, Hobbes makes a rule. You are allowed to, and in that way, honestly, I'm like, Rapscallion and some Powered by the Apocalypse games seem like Calvin Ball.
Yeah.
You roll a thing and you get to choose a terrible outcome that will also happen with your desired outcome. And So, you can make a weird power fantasy, every silly fucking rule in the book kind of game. But then as the DM, like, I don't know, I don't particularly think the wish fulfillment game of that variety is going to be very satisfying.
No.
But that's me. Other people, I mean, you know, again, that's why I play fucking solo video games on easy mode if I want to do that.
Some people do want the level 20 experience. And I do think that if you were interested in running that, you could. But if your players are constantly pushing every single boundary you have, and you at no point are saying, that's a boundary, I don't want you to push on that, here's what's going to happen if you do, then they're going to keep pushing because they don't know it's there. And, you know, there's just so many different moments in this story where I feel like I'm in the car with somebody who's like hitting animals and is like, oh my God, did you see how that deer just ran in front of me? I'm like, dude, your hands are on the wheel. You can swerve. Like, you don't have to hit it.
Deer on a highway, you are supposed to accelerate. Sort of.
For sure. But like, and hey, if the deer is the bugbear player who left, do accelerate, hit that guy. Like, it's fine. That guy, hey, as Reddit would say, the trash took itself out. I don't know why you're trying to bring him back in. He self-selected out of your hair, and you should let him continue to do that. But everything else, it's like you're just running into debris that's on the road. It's like, you can swerve. The wheel is in your hands, dude.
Yeah.
You can move.
Yeah.
You
can move. You can decide what fucking road you're on, in fact. You could get off this road and onto a different, much
actually,
more peaceful
I'm gonna put stuff up so that the debris doesn't just go into the road.
Yeah. Jesus. Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, you know, as so often seems to be the answer. Communicate or break up with.
That's it. Like, come on, man. You got to talk to these people. Like when
boundaries. Maybe it's set boundaries, communicate, and or break up.
Set boundaries and communicate them, please. Like, the fact that at the very beginning, they're like, I know I'm not the world's greatest DM because I don't own every book and I don't remember every rule and sometimes I forget stuff. That's like, not why you're a bad
major
DM.
Quibble. That has nothing to do with being a bad DM. I mean,
but you are one. You are a bad DM.
You are one for other reasons. Oh God. As a parting thought, new players in level 20 do not usually mix.
No, they don't go well together.
Having said that, your sister's first D&D experience
that is true.
Was as a level 20 bard when I ran the Vecna one-shot for them like a year and a half ago. And as a level 20 bard, she fucking crushed it.
I'm sure she did. My sister, by the way, a star. Was this the one where she was playing a centaur bard?
She was, in fact, playing a centaur bard.
That's right. I remember there being a situation where she was going upstairs and then people were like, turn around. She's like, I can't. I'm a horse.
This was not that specific situation. Same PC at two different levels in two different games. But yes, in a different game, that exact Spiff, the Sorrel Appaloosian centaur bard who dreams drearily of dressage. I don't remember. She had this great tongue twister intro, something like that. Spiff did in fact get stuck in a stairway and could not roll in double digits on a dexterity check to get out of the stairway.
Mm-hmm. Horse is infamously not great at going downstairs. So they got up and they could not get back down. Was what I had heard.
As Veterinary would say, the key is to find that part of the horse which very much wants to get down. Oh my God. Well, DMs communicate with your players. Players check in with your DMs.
Yeah.
I feel like that's gonna just continue to be our tagline here.
How about you guys go away and talk, and then you come back and you tell us how that went.
Perfect. There we go. Oh man. Oh, every time I'm just like, I can't wait till the next time we get to. I know, because
we'll be here talking also. They can come back and tell us what happened.
It's true. Oh my God. Hannah, where can people find you on the internet for more pithy wisdom and DM advice and art?
People can find me for pithy wisdom, DM advice, and art on Burger Queen Draws, available everywhere, but especially prominent on TikTok. I'm back.
Yeah.
I'm back.
You notice how that ban just quietly is not being enforced at all?
Yeah. I especially love that I experienced so much personal emotional distress about it. And then it was just a really clean little alley-oop for a man I hate. To just not enforce the ban. But I'm there. I'm also on Tumblr. And I've been drawing a lot. I've been drawing a lot of K-pop Demon Hunters fan art recently.
Yes.
So
awesome.
Yay. Colin, where can people find you?
You can't. I mean, you can find my cats on Instagram at NoGoodCats, and the closest you can find me is by following The Roll Report on Instagram and TikTok and Blue Sky at The Roll Report Cast. And you can also, if you like what you hear and want to hear more, you can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/The Roll Report. For as little as $1 a month, you can submit questions for our upcoming guests. Secret guests, not so secret guests.
Yeah,
cool
we're actually pretty excited about some of the guests that we're going to be having. If you'd like to give us a follow over on Patreon for $1 a month, you can ask those guests questions that only you will get to know the answers to. I think you also get to know who those guests are going to be ahead of time.
You do get to know who those guests are going to be, although maybe that will be a little more public announcement. We'll see. Entice people over to Patreon that way. But yeah.
We're beckoning alluringly. Can you hear us beckoning alluringly?
I'm smoldering my eyes at you.
That's a nice smolder. Look at you go.
It's the eyebrows that help. I may or may not have spent an inordinate amount of time in my youth in practicing in front of a mirror until I could do both.
Well, as a teacher of small children, I just want you to know that's so normal of you.
It is. It's very normal. Thank you for acknowledging that. I pride myself on my normality.
Yeah, me too. It's the first thing most people recognize about me is how normal I am.
It's true. Yeah, definitely first thing I thought when I met you.
Sure.
What a normal person this is. I mean, for context of my life, absolutely.
Actually, yeah, I am pretty mild in the context of your life. Yeah. That's true. Well, listeners, thank you for spending some time with us, and we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah. Keep rolling dice or other things.
Oh, what other things are there?
Hey, I don't know. Balls, cars, blocks,
pins,
pins, bowling pins,
rolling pins, like
rolling. Yes, there we go. Yeah. See, much better. Roll those pins. Okay.